wanna play Berzerk, you're on. Hey, where you going? The video arcade! You can't play Berzerk at home. Yeah, you can. Atari!
It's Berzerk inside an electric maze, where robots shoot with electric rays.
Take that, turkey!
So look out, don't get trapped, or you might get zapped. Berzerk is here from Atari.
Can you beat that?
And only for systems from Atari.
Have you played Atari today?
Video games are the ultimate form of escapism. While movies, cartoons, and books let us explore worlds beyond our imagination, we still lack the control over how everything is done. And while this is still true with video games, we can't always change the outcome of the story unless there are multiple endings, we can still take direct control of how these things play out. This can make things easier to digest and understand. I'm sure we've all had moments where in a horror movie we criticize the characters for making obviously dumb decisions. Like that one chick in Saw 2 who put her hands into the obvious trap. Yeah, no shit, your hands are gonna get stuck. What the fuck did you expect was gonna happen? But during gameplay, we can't criticize the actions of the main character as much because we're the ones in charge of their fate. We become the dumb bitch putting our dumb bitch hands into the obvious dumb bitch trap. Like a dumb bitch. But you could argue that it's still more understandable because unlike the characters in the story, we know this isn't real, so we're more willing to take these chances. The characters we play as may die, but we are perfectly safe. But what if that wasn't the case? Well, in the 1980s, there was a point where some pondered that idea. In 1981, Stern Electronics released Berzerk in the arcades. The game was praised at the time by some, and it was relatively popular. But then in 1982, something odd happened. 18-year-old Peter Burkowski entered his local arcade, the Friar's Truck game room that was located in Calumet City, Illinois. He played Berzerk and managed to get a high score, but after the game ended, he collapsed on the ground and suffered a cardiac arrest. He later died that same day. This caused many urban legends to arise about the game, and more specifically its main villain, Evil Otto, claiming they somehow crossed the walls between fiction and reality and killed Peter for getting a high score. Though this isn't the case, as after an autopsy, it was discovered that Peter already had 2-week-old scar tissue in his heart. The stress of the game most likely brought his already weak heart to its breaking point. The owner of the arcade even claimed that he saw Peter walk inside his business, panting before even playing the game. So no, Berzerk nor Otto killed Peter. It was just an unfortunate coincidence. Oh, stop, you ruined my emotion. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna look at obviously fake shit and say, it could be fake, but IDK, tell me what you think down below. Give me free engagement for humoring your gullible mind, as I will never even check the comments. If you really think that a smiley face from a video game killed a man, then you need to grow up! There's a difference between having some whimsy and lacking common sense. If Bloody Mary was real, then how come there's no footage of it? No! Out of this house! Out of this house, demon! Nonetheless, this caused the Evil Otto urban legend to spread, and 30 years later the story was brought back into the limelight thanks to the Creepypasta community. It wouldn't be the first time a Creepypasta helped reignite interest in an urban legend. Suicide Mouse actually started as an urban legend called Mickey Goes to Hell. And let's not forget Lavender Town Syndrome. It's funny to see that some stories never truly die. They simply adapt to find a new audience. It's just like Jumanji, because apparently the board game thought that kids today lacked the arm strength to throw dice and move pieces on a board from all the Soylent they were drinking. So it turned into a video game and transformed a child into Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson for some reason. But now it's been over 40 years since the game and the story came to be. And I think it's time for us to look at the game that inspired a tale that was told for generations. But I can't play it! I don't own an arcade cabinet of Berzerk! Fret not, my friends, for the game was ported onto consoles like the Atari 2600, so now it's time to finally see what shivered the spines of many. Let's start with the story. The year is 3200, and you are the last surviving member of a crew who landed on the planet of Mazion, a dark, lonely world that can barely be deemed as habitable. The Automasians destroy your ship, leaving you stranded and alone on this hostile world. You must trudge through the maze while avoiding the Automasians, and don't think you can lean on a wall to peek around the corner. because they too are deadly to the touch. Even if you defeat the robotic enemies in your way, you are far from safe, because Otto, the creator of these machines, is always watching and ready to pounce on their prey at any moment. Constantly wearing that wild smile, escaping the maze won't save you, because you'll simply enter another labyrinth of dismay. All you can do is run and hold on to your sanity, for if Otto catches you, then you might suffer a fate worse than death. Well, goddamn! Maybe this game does earn its reputation! Let's play it! This is gonna be silly. From the lore of the game and the story surrounding it, you'd assume that this would be one of the scariest games on the Atari 2600, but it's honestly one of the funniest. It's a top-down shooter where you must avoid the Automasians and their shots as you escape to the next room, and repeat the process until you die. You can fire your own shots to defeat the enemies, but it's not mandatory to enter the next room. They're simply there to make navigating the maze that much harder. But if you really want that high score, then you'd put in the effort to kill every single robot thug. Which won't be hard because these have got to be some of the dumbest enemies in video game history. They will sometimes just stand there and blindly shoot at a wall. Sometimes they can even kill each other. And remember how I said that touching the wall kills you? While that's true, that also applies for the enemies too. How do I know this? Because these freaking nincompoops will just walk right into them! The inhabitants of the planet can't survive its own formations, and these walls are everywhere too! I don't know which is a better analogy. Is it like if all the water and lava of the earth swapped? Or would it be like if humans died by touching water? And like doing, my hands are so fucking dirty, Jesus Christ! It's a ridiculously easy game if you just focus on going through the exits that only becomes slightly more difficult if you want to kill the enemies. But don't waste your time just standing in one room. Why? No reason. Absolutely nothing will happen. So wait, where's Otto? Well, you see this knob here on the Atari 2600? The one that says Game Select? Well, for some Atari games, flicking it allows you to explore other modes. Now that's interesting. From the NES era and onward, if you wanted to play another mode, you would simply select it on a menu in-game. But here, it's done through the console itself. Berzerk has 3 different modes. The one you've been seeing is Game 1. This is the version that doesn't have Otto in it at all. Game 2 is where Otto finally makes his debut. If you take too long in one room, he will enter the screen and bounce wildly towards your direction. Every entity in the game dies when it touches a wall, but Otto is the only exception, as he goes right through them. Your only hope is to run to the exit. Or simply kill him. Yeah, Otto is actually killable in Berzerk. I bet you didn't know that, but it doesn't help that much as he respawns as soon as he is killed. Now I know some of you may be disappointed by this. You'd think a character with such a reputation in video game urban legends and creepypasta wouldn't be so easily killable. And you'd be right, just not in this mode. Game 3, the final mode of Berzerk, is what many would associate with the stories. Otto appears as per usual, but this time, he can't be killed. This makes that demented smile feel a bit more intimidating. And well, that's kind of it. It's an arcade game from 1981 that was ported to the Atari 2600. What do you expect? Most games at the time were based on high scores and how long you can last. Most of these games didn't even have endings. Okay, there were, but there were very few that did. It's sillier than what you'd expect, but that actually made me like the game more. For an Atari game, it's pretty fun, and it's great to finally play the game that inspired generations of horror. In 2013, a strange hole was discovered within a state of Nevada. It was found by a young adolescent who recorded his findings on his phone with the intent of posting them on the video sharing platform, Vine. After recording everything, they called the local authorities, but when they arrived at the child's location, they were nowhere to be seen. All that was left was their phone lying by the edge of the hole. Ever since then, scientists like myself have been studying the hole with the intent of trying to find its origins. Its shape, being a perfect circle, is far too precise to be considered natural, but its depth goes beyond what humans are capable of, even with the right tools. However, only its shape and size have ever been studied due to the difficulties the hole presented. The farthest humans have drilled into the Earth is around 12.3 kilometers, or the Kola Super Deep Borehole SG-3 located in Russia, which is deeper than even the Mariana Trench, but still seemingly nowhere as deep as the one we're studying. Sending humans to research the hole would be impossible, as not only would we have to worry about the change in temperature, pressure, and the amount of time it would take just to reach the same point as the super deep borehole, but we do not know how deep this hole truly is. Until now. In 2018, a new type of drone was developed, one that could survive the changes that humans wouldn't. It has an experimental nuclear battery attached to it that will ensure that it will last however long it takes to reach the bottom, and a high-quality camera to record everything it finds. Our only concern is keeping a solid connection with the drone and the footage it sends us, but I suppose we'll have to figure that out as we go. The goal is to see where the hole leads, and why one of this nature would even exist. The drone was sent, slowly descending down the hole as the pilots were careful not to hit the edge so it wouldn't get damaged. It took hours just to arrive at the borehole point. It took days and several shifts just to make any sort of progress. It just kept going, and going, and going, and going. That is when one scientist notices something. Comparing the footage of entry up to this point, he had discovered that the walls had slowly started to smooth out and lose their color, becoming a dark gray. By the time we made this discovery, another was right around the corner. The drone started to act strange. We realized that we didn't need to be as careful about ensuring that the drone doesn't go into a free fall. Up until this point, we've had to slow down and even halt our progress to make sure that we weren't going as fast as not to destroy the drone, but we haven't needed to in hours. The gravity is somehow weaker within this area. We were unsure what to think of these discoveries until we saw him. The boy. The same one within the unposted videos. His body was nearly completely decomposed. Most of his skeleton was exposed, and little to no flesh remained. Though it wasn't completely intact, either parts were separated from the fall or time itself. But despite being vulnerable to the elements, no creature had touched his body. It was simply left to rot all alone. We theorized that he might have fell down the hole, but this isn't the bottom. His body just floats there. Some parts are even bumped into the drone. As gruesome as the sight was for most, it was a point of discovery. That there was an end to this journey, but not in the way that we were thinking. The boy's body was a sign that we were halfway to the end. How can we tell this? Because this is the center point of gravity. As when we continued our descent, the drone slowly rotated and the same force was needed to make it fly upwards. This is strange, because we're nowhere near the Earth's core. We were only 300 kilometers down. To reach the Earth's core would take almost 3,000 kilometers. As we continued our journey, the world lost more color, and the walls became more refined. This is the moment we were waiting for. After almost a month, we finally saw the other side. And what was waiting for us, we still don't understand. The world was completely gray, including the sky, which was completely empty. No clouds, stars, nor the sun or the moon could be seen. It looked like a barren wasteland of perfectly flat ground. Excited, we piloted the drone around the area. The nature of this place intrigued us. We couldn't help but to see what it had in store for us. We reached what looked like a small town, so we got closer. We were uncertain about the nature of the small town, as it's very similar to the hole we discovered 5 years prior. The buildings were the same color as the ground. In fact, it appeared as though they were growing from the ground. Like a plant or a small mountain almost. Despite their shape, these structures seemed to be completely natural. In fact, everything was like this. The structures that resembled sidewalks, roads, signs, and a tall humanoid statue seemingly guarding a round building. At that moment, one of the researchers jokingly remarked about how it looked similar to the Alien Research Center gift shop in Rachel, Nevada, which isn't too far from our current location. But that's when we began to notice something. Just like that, one of the other researchers requested to bring the drone up and point the camera down at this fake town. And that's when we made our greatest discovery. The geography of this small town is identical to that of Rachel, Nevada. And not just vaguely, it's like looking at a grayscaled photo of the town. This world reflects ours. Its shape is a near exact copy of us. But instead of its structures being built, they seemingly grew out of the ground naturally. The only difference is that everything seems to be flipped horizontally, as the direction we took to get to this duplicate town would have taken us further away from it, not to it. It's almost like looking in a mirror. When you look in a mirror, let's say to brush your teeth, your mirror itself would look like they're brushing the left side of their mouth when you're brushing your right. The only other difference is that the things that have not been replicated are most organic life. No humans, no animals, no insects. Unless it's rooted to the ground in some way, whether that be natural or artificially, it doesn't get replicated. The only living things that seem to get replicated are plant life or fungi. But there is life in this world, and the first we discovered we call the Lessrest. It appears to look like a curved, six-legged bench complete with armrests. We almost completely missed it until the pilot wanted to admire its appearance. It's true. Unlike the flat, colorless buildings, this thing actually looked detailed. But that was almost our biggest mistake, as out of nowhere the seat split open, revealing a massive maw filled with broken teeth and gums too close to its lips. Its throat widened as we can almost see its stomach acid from outside of its body. That's how close its stomach was to its mouth. If that was a stomach. It's hard to see what's really inside. While open, the top of its mouth almost appeared like a backrest for the bench. Quickly, some scientists pulled the drone back, but the thing began to leap at us like an angry toad. We almost got knocked out of the air, but thankfully, we were able to ascend to a point where the creature could not reach us. We were unsure if there was any significant damage done to the drone, so we let it float in the air as we collected ourselves and discussed our findings. Life does exist in this world, and even if it seems to reflect the structures in our world, much like the ground-risen buildings, seeing a town we were all too familiar with completely flipped on its head with that thing living inside it, and possibly more. It was like looking into a twisted mirror. Twisted mirror. Twister. But this was an opportunity we couldn't pass up. We gathered our findings and sent them to our higher-ups, hoping to get more funding for the project to research this world we named Twister. They agreed, hoping to find new resources to use. We made more drones, expanded our workforce, and gave ourselves a new name, the TRA, short for the Twister Research Association. And these next few years I hope will be filled with discovery. Slender Man, Slender Man, all the children try to run. Slender Man, they should 'cause it's adult fun. All kids out of the pool. If you know anything about me, you probably know that I love this Slender Man. I mean, I've already talked about him a lot on this channel, from his history, to fan creations, other variations, and even his first game. For those who somehow don't know who Slender Man is, he is one of the major pillars of internet horror, first debuting in 2009 in the Something Awful forums, created by Eric Knudsen for a photo manipulation contest, with fake news reports featuring a tall, faceless man wearing a suit hidden in the background. And in the early 2010s, he was as common on the internet as Happy Wheels, Gmod games like Prop Hunt, Surgeon Simulator, and the Lauren Faust version of My Little Pony. Wait a minute. While he's not as popular as he once was, his impact on internet culture and the horror genre cannot be ignored. A lot of it was because of Slender the 8 Pages, a freeware indie horror game from Parsec Productions that several Let's Players like Markiplier and PewDiePie played before they even got their first million subscribers. In 2013, Blue Isle Studios developed a sequel called Slender: The Arrival. It took the first game, pushed the visuals and gameplay further, and made it into more of a story-driven experience. Though it didn't do as well as the first game, it still got a lot of support over the years, being released on just about every platform you can imagine: PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, Xbox 360, Xbox One, Wii U, Nintendo Switch, PC, Android, and iOS devices. It even got a 10th anniversary remaster, which upgraded the visuals of the game. This remastered was made available on Steam, Epic, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X. The remaster looks absolutely gorgeous. The game looks so much better than how the original did. That's not to say that the first game looked bad. It was serviceable, but I can't deny that some things were a little bit weird with the original. Like your run cycle, for example.
I like going on adventures.
And after all this time, we're finally getting a sequel, S, Lost Chapters. But it doesn't have the Slender Man, I'm assuming for copyright reasons, hence why the game is called S and not Slender. Take that for what you will, I'm still keeping an eye on it, and who knows, maybe later they can add him into the game if they get the copyright problem sorted out. I don't know. The script is being made in the middle of May 2025, so if anything changes between today and by the time this video releases, I'm sorry, I just like to be very ahead of schedule. It helps keep me motivated. So anyway, it's about time I finally talked about the sequel to Slender the 8 Pages. Welcome to Cackling Pumpkins, and this is Slender the Arrival. In Slender the Arrival, you play as Lauren, the loving sister of Kate who travels to her home in the forest to help her move. But when she arrives, she finds that Kate is missing, so they go out to find her, only to be followed by the slendy bendy boy of yore. Though that's everything you can gather at first glance, there are notes hidden all throughout the game to take a deeper dive into the story, and tapes that cover other encounters of the Slender Man. These notes and tapes make it easy for people to digest the story. People can ignore them and still get a general idea as to what is happening. Your sister is missing and you must find her while avoiding the Slender Man. But if you want more lore and context, the option is there. You don't have to read them at the spot, as you can grab them and look at them later. What's impressive is that Blue Isle Studios even brought in the crew behind Marble Hornets to help write the story. Marble Hornets was a found-footage horror series about a group of independent filmmakers trying to make a movie called Marble Hornets. That is until they are followed and harassed by the Slender Man, or as he's called in this series, the Operator. You can thank them for unofficially developing the character while still being true to the mythos based around him. The series went from 2009 to 2019. I should probably talk about it someday, but back to the game. Just like the first game, it's a first-person horror game. The controls are what you would expect from the genre. Mouse camera controls, shift to run, picking up items, and turning on and off your flashlight when needed. Minus picking up items and opening and closing doors, the game feels like a proper evolution to the original. That's not to say that it's daring by all means. I mean, how many other horror games had this simple gameplay style? But it is true to form. The pathway to Kate's house, inside her home, and the pathway to Oakside Park is probably the best way to introduce people to the simple control scheme and overall feel of the game, mainly due to all the interactive objects from windows, a piano, and phones, while not stressing the player with any threat just yet, but still not letting them feel completely safe, as you do get the occasional glimpse at the Slender Man. Oh, so does a slide you can actually slide down? That was fun. I should find Kate. Now that was a gay old time. I lived like I was a young one once more. The innocent memories of my childhood came flooding back to me, but only for approximately 2.47 seconds. Oh well, now it's time to walk into unimaginable horrors beyond my comprehension.
Oh, hello there, you old chap. Taking a bit of a gander over the hills, I see. Beautiful sunset we're having, aren't we?
After leaving Kate's house through the back, Slender isn't even trying to hide anymore. He isn't hunting you down just yet. It's more like he's taunting you, letting you know that by arriving at Kate's home, your fate has already been decided. Then you enter the Oakside Park and finally the horrors begin. It starts off with your typical Slender affair. Collect 8 pages found on landmarks throughout the map while avoiding Slender Man's gaze. I've gotta say that they make the Slender Man way more intimidating in this game. If you looked at him in the first title, you would just hear a standard jump scare noise as static would crawl on your screen. Simple, yet effective. Here, the scare noise isn't there as the screen just starts to glitch. The screen glitching is more inconsistent than the static of the first game, which makes it harder to tell how close you actually are to your demise. The visuals also make it harder to see him, but easier to follow the map. though it's nowhere near as hard as the first game, as this is the first real level. After collecting the 8 pages, you collapse only to wake up near a factory. Despite the huge open forest area lit with beautiful sunlight, you decide to enter the common mining facility with a pitch black entrance and dark ambience. Not really helping the white people walking straight into danger trope, but alright. Here, instead of 8 pages, you have 6 generators you must turn on to activate an elevator to progress. Here you not only have to worry about the Slender Man, but also a new entity, the Proxy. Introduced in the Marble Hornet series, a proxy is someone who is under the influence of Slender Man, meaning this used to be a person. I remember back in the day before this game came out, people were analyzing the trailers for this game and trying to figure out who this person was. Some even assumed it was Jeff the Killer, a famous Creepypasta character who is often paired with the Slender Man by many within and outside of the community. I can't blame people for thinking this was Jeff because they do look eerily similar to each other. But no, this is not Jeff, though I will not say who it is because that would be a spoiler.
Oh, but isn't it fucking obvious?
The proxy isn't handled the same way as the Slender Man, as you can look at them without causing damage. They'll instead chase you, and if they get you 3 times, it's game over. The proxy can be a bit nerve-wracking to deal with, as you can hear their footsteps even if they're not that close to you, constantly giving you the impression that they're just around the corner. And not to say that they're the best threat, as all you have to do to stray them off your path, if they are chasing you, is focus your flashlight in their eyes and blind them, which you can do over and over with little to no repercussions.
Back, demon! Back! Back to some ordinary archives with you!
They're just incredibly easy to toy with. Maybe having a bit of punishment for blinding them too much would have been nice, like maybe making them cover their eyes with one arm as they blindly charge forward, but it still works for what it is. After escaping the factory, you find a teddy bear which takes you to a flashback of a young boy named Charlie, who gets lured away with toy pieces as his parents begin to get worried and eventually start panicking and screaming your name in the forest. But by then, it's already too late, and Slender Man's tendrils can already be seen swirling in the air with no sign of escape. This sequence is actually really cool. It adds more to the horrors of the Slender Man while introducing a new ability of his that we'll have to look out for later. Even though it's completely scripted, I still enjoy this moment. It's a sign of where things are headed. But unfortunately, that's not completely a good thing. Going through some caves, you find an abandoned farmhouse with a TV and some tapes inside. Playing the tapes, you take a look at other encounters, including a man who comes to investigate Charlie's disappearance. You have this massive farmland, cornfield, a bunker, and a chapel to venture through. Seems like a good map to have Slender Man or some similar entity attack you. There is something out there though. When you enter the bunker to find the key to the chapel, you'll constantly encounter the scrawny humanoid creature in the halls. Sometimes you'll see them standing ominously down a path, or quickly run past you as you leave a room, and trust me, that is scary. That is until you realize that they're no threat. They can't harm or kill you in any way. They're just there to mess with you, and once you realize that, you are no longer as cautious as you once were. Even when you walk through the cornfield to the chapel and see them running around, while it can surprise you every now and then, it loses its effect once you realize that's all it is. The only time you are actually chased in this level is when you find a doll on the ground and are pursued by a similar entity, but this chase doesn't even last long. Look, I'm not saying that every scare has to be a real threat to the player, but going on this long without one kind of removes the scare factor it could have had. Having things just fuck with the player is fine, but I feel you still need to give them a reason to be hesitant on progressing. Once a player realizes that these obstacles are just there to surprise you and not actually hinder your progress, the player doesn't feel the need to treat this as a horror game. And yes, you could use that to lower your guard, but the chase that it leads to doesn't live up to the amount of build-up that you just went through. Not only this, but minus the bunker, the entire segment feels a bit too linear. Why is this a problem? Because to me, that's not what Slender is. Slender excels when there's an open area to explore, with an objective that encourages you to treat this open area like a map, finding the best routes to complete the objective. I'm not saying that every level should be about collecting X number of objects, but to make Slender work, I think you need to make open areas feel cramped. The map in the first game, Oakside Park, and the mining facility are all pretty open, but they feel so much tighter because you are constantly running around the map trying to complete the goal, while an enemy, whether that be the Slender Man or the Proxy, makes you feel like your options for exploration are limited. Here it just feels too open. Even the tight bunker feels more comfortable to explore than most of the other maps. It's not a bad section per se, but it just doesn't feel Slender. And I should know, I'm his cousin. The second tape features Kate back in her home making crazed drawings like the ones you'd collect in the first game, or in Oakside Park. She feels the presence of the Slender Man, so now you must run around her house and close every window and door to keep him out. Why are they all left open to begin with, including the front door? I don't know. Someone doesn't seem to care about home security. A Ring doorbell camera is useless when you leave your front door wide open like a dip. After the tapes are over, it's time for the final level. Climb up the mountain, which is now on fire, as Slender Man is enraged, and you must avoid him in the same tentacle trick that got Charlie, avoiding the falling burning logs and get inside the radio tower. It's a cool sequence because even though it's on the linear side, it still gives you the Slender Man spirit but turned up due to the rage of the fire and the operator. What I also like is that similar to the first game, when he's in your line of vision, you can't pause, and trying to only bring him closer. Getting to the radio tower, your flashlight finally dies, a sign of the end of the game, as you use the fire to guide your path and keep you safe, until you find a corpse in the back with no exit, and a recording of someone begging for forgiveness plays. The end comes from the dark. After one last encounter with the boy in the bunker, the game ends. The ending is anticlimactic, but it's honestly hard for me to think of how else this game would end. I can't necessarily fault it too much for that. The game can be beaten in only an hour or two, but I think that's fine, as I think Slender excels when it's short and sweet. Honestly, this game is pretty good. It's a good evolution of the original formula, but maybe get it on sale if you don't want to spend $20 for it. It clearly has some passionate people working on it who still love what they made, considering it's gotten so many releases and support over the years. And even though S Lost Chapters doesn't have Slender Man, I'm still curious to see how it turns out. From our research, we can conclude that Twister has no source of light, either natural or artificial. And yet, we can see everything with no problem. We never needed to turn on the drone's flashlights or activate night vision mode. We can see everything clear as day. But as there is no source of light, that also means there are no shadows either. No structure, creature, or even the drones make any sort of shade. And no matter the time of the day, nothing changes. None of us have yet to understand it, which made us even more curious as to why a creature would appear as a streetlight. We call it the Shotlight. It is a tall creature that appears like a severed arm. What makes it stand is a tumor-like mass that seems to help keep it in balance. At the bottom are tiny little nubs that almost appear like thumbs. We assume that if this creature can move, it would do so with these tiny little nubs, much like a starfish. But once again, that is if this creature can move, as none of us have recorded it doing so. At the end is a hand with a few fingers, and at the tips of the fingers are what appears to be human eyes being hung by long hairs. No recorded creature in Twister has had eyes so far, let alone ones that resemble a human's. But these eyes are not to see, they are to hunt. They use these eyes as bait as other creatures, such as the Lessrest, approach the eyes wanting a taste. Once one has bitten an eye, they find themselves in quite a predicament, as they are unable to open their mouths and escape. As they struggle, their bodies begin to shrink in mass, crunching in on themselves until the squirming finally ends. And soon, all that remains is loose skin, teeth, and nails of what was before. It almost works like a reverse Venus flytrap. Its nubs then extend outward and pull the remains under its mass. It's hiding the evidence, most likely to ensure its next prey will come willingly.
Get inside! Now! I'll hold the door!
Alright, barricade it!
Oh God, what is happening?
Everything sucks now! Ah, I agree, but shut up!
It's the antique apocalypse!
One touch, and you slowly transform into an antique! The first sign of infection is looking into old memories.
Get out! No! Get out! No! Don't make me get the tongue terror! Fuck off!
Hello? 911! We need help!
Let them burn. Blake, you're the smart one. What do we do?
Don't worry. We don't have to wait too much longer. Besides, there's a reason why people trip and fall.
Okay. Now that I had enough time to collect myself, let's go over our situation. We are completely surrounded by antiques, and we're stuck inside with no way out.
Yeah, uh-huh.
If they touch us at least once, we'll slowly transform into an antique.
Yes, I've heard it's quite painful.
None of us touched each other though, right?
Nope.
Nah.
Okay, good. But let's make sure we don't touch in case one of us is lying.
What if it turns out one of us was touched?
Then, I don't know, man. I'll poke you with a broom and shove you in the closet or something.
Why the closet?
I've already been in there long enough. It's not fun.
Okay, so now we should probably go around and find something to defend ourselves with, and make sure to close any entrance they can find.
Oh, good idea. Look at you making plans.
Well, Blake, I've had a bit of experience. I remember when I lived in Jefferson with my roommate and stole his camera to get on the internet. Had to make a few plans for that. Good times. I remember when things were simpler. Not like this.
What?
Oh, gee,
What are you doing?
He's an antique!
How do you know that?
Because antiques always say remember and how today sucks! Did you not just hear him like 2 seconds ago?
Stop it! I don't think being nostalgic just once means he's an antique!
You're bisexual boxers. Don't make such harsh assumptions about me. Thanks for the help, Terror.
There! You see? The transformation sequence has already begun!
Holy shit!
Fuck this!
Tug, are you still in there?
Tug? Why did you forget the rest of my name, Terror? Hello, everybody. It's me, Mr. Tuggles.
It's true.
What's true? Are you feeling alright?
No!
Okay, Jack, let's put him in the closet.
Sure thing, pal. I'll get started right away, friendo. Fuck.
Sorry, Tug. This is for your own good.
Why? What's going on? Did the world end? Was 2012 right?
My god, he doesn't even know that it's 2025 anymore.
It is? I mean, yeah, it's really unfortunate. Pretty soon he might even forget who we are.
You're right. Let's go to the other room so we can figure this out. Make sure to close the door behind you in case the closet isn't strong enough to hold him.
Sounds good. Fuck, what do? Do I lock myself in here? But Blake will be all alone. But if I don't, I'll turn him into an antique as well. I can make that happen. It's happening. I'm already starting to transform. Think, Jack, think. You're a master at torture, but you can't touch the antiques or else you'll turn into one. But I was already touched, so there's no hope for me. But there is for him. That's right. I'm the master of torture, raised by a family of killers and psychos.
Jack? Are you talking to yourself?
Never mind that. Get ready to run. I'm making an opening for you.
What? No! You get touched!
I already was. Mr. Tuckles got me while you were getting the broom. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner.
But there has to be something we can do!
There's nothing! I can already feel myself changing. I'm a professional torturer. I can hold them off as long as I can, but you have to run and find a safe place to go!
And then what?
I'll find a way to undo this, or at least fight back!
I can't!
We don't have time to argue, bisexual boxers. Go now!
Thank you, Jack. I will.
That'll be the last time I hear that name, until I go back to being Terror. Now go! Well, there you over nostalgic pieces of porcelain. Let me give you a free trial of Terror's Torture Trials. Better get it now, because the brand is going to be discontinued soon. Want? Some more? Remember when I first stabbed you? Yes. Let the nostalgia flow through you. Who are you? Oh, no one. Just a 2-for-1 deal. You can call me Dismal. Dismal the cookie jar. You living objects have had it good for far too long. I had to discover that when you die, we aren't buried or cremated. We're sold at a cheap price as our corpses are used as decoration. What? I didn't know those were corpses. That's pretty metal. No, of course you didn't. You never bothered to check. Now the world will slowly become better. Don't worry. You'll be Jack very soon, As your newer memories will slowly be redeveloped, it'll be as if none of this ever happened. If that's the case, then why do all of this? Because the world isn't too easy to improve these days. That, and there are some changes we wanted to make. To make sure none of this ever happened again, we made it so that the infection changes your memories.
But to alter your memories, we had to revert your mind to an earlier point so that the new memories can be implemented naturally.
This is what you deserve for treating us like the current dust. Now it's your turn.
These new memories will tell you the antiques discovered the world. The antiques found and colonized each continent, each country, and each place you call home. That antiques belong in positions of power, and if you want any sort of respect or chance of success, you'll need to respect your elders and become one yourself.
And regular objects will be seen as inferior to us. But unlike before, we'll at least treat you like living beings. Well, maybe sub-living at least. You see, Halloween decoration, this wasn't the antique apocalypse. It was the antique revolution.
Vlog number 101. After Jack bravely sacrificed himself, I ran as fast as I could. I didn't care where. I just ran. I somehow made it to a small town called Jefferson. It's where Tug used to live in his childhood, back when he did refer to himself as Mr. Tuckles. It's funny how things can go full circle. I broke into an abandoned church. There's a gas station down the street, so I'll have enough food to at least last a month. I don't know what to do after that, though. Vlog number 102. I awoke the next day, freezing from the cold wooden floor. I heard people, so I ran to peep out the boarded-up window. It was as if the apocalypse never happened, but it's not like it wasn't different. There were people in antiques walking down the street. Some laughed, some talked, and even brought up plans for Christmas. I walked outside to take a better look. An antique touched my shoulder and asked if I was okay. I ran with tears in my eyes. I thought I was a goner, but the transformation never came. Looking around town, I've noticed quite a bit of changes. There are far more graves than usual. I'm not sure if they were casualties, but no one seems to be acknowledging them. The entire town of Jefferson just felt unsafe. It was dirtier, quieter, vandalized. The center historical moments in Jefferson Circle are gone, and placed with new ones. I looked at the newspaper and noticed even more changes. Look, I'm a political person, and I should know that this Dismal wasn't the president, and Congress and the world leaders' offices wasn't filled with antiques beforehand. I decided to hide in the church for a bit longer. Vlog number 103. I went home, and Tug and Jack were back to normal. They were worried about me, wondering where I was. I told them everything, but they didn't seem to believe me. Tug looked a bit worried, though. He said something like,
I know you wouldn't lie about this sort of thing, especially since you've been gone for so long, but I don't remember any of that.
It was as if he wanted to believe me. Jack interjected.
People are always making all sorts of weird conspiracies about the antiques. They found this country. If it wasn't for them, then we wouldn't be here.
Tug replied.
You really respect the antiques considering how bad the economy is?
My mind went to a blank after that. It was as if I just woke up into an alternate universe. This isn't right.
You want proof? Just look at this town. It's awful, awful, I tells yous.
Tug was right. He was right, I tells you indeed. The town we lived in was in a similar condition to Jefferson. I found rent was cheaper, but we still could barely afford it. I don't know what's happening. I'll have to look into it. Tug seems interested in what I went through. A part of him has to believe me. Jack might need more time to process this. Maybe I can change this. I can't be the only one in the world who knows about the old one. I'm going to live my life as usual, but dedicate a good portion of it investigating this world and my options. I will change things. I will fix this, with or without Tug and Jack's help. If anyone else remembers this world, please contact me immediately at
Hey everybody, it's me, Mr. Tuggles. You may have seen me in the background in most videos that Jack 103 has made, because I'm his favorite. He bought me like a few years ago, and he made a bunch of videos that he made, but I never made a video before. Well, I have, like, 78 times. But he interrupted me because he can't stay out of his room because he left.
We are not sure of the extent of these creatures' intelligence. They could be like common animals or far smarter than humans. We'd have to put them through tests to truly understand how smart they really are, but that would involve bringing a creature through the hole, and I doubt there are any that could survive the trip. Depending on their intelligence or how their minds work, they'd create a system similar to our world, rules or laws to follow. But they haven't. Are they just like animals that only go by the unspoken rules of their instinct? Or are they so intelligent that they've evolved beyond the need of simple law and order? We can't say for sure, but Disinragards do. Simple, one-legged creatures to have an inflatable bubble of flesh on the top. They deflate their head, merge the flesh, and inflate it again to make it into a different shape. They almost appear as hopping signs. They're the only species that we've seen so far that moves in a pack. A group of 5, maybe even 20 can be seen bouncing around, changing the shape of their head and waving them about. For what purpose? I would assume to be a warning of caution, similar to the traffic signs of our world. Different shapes have different meanings. We don't know what every form means yet, but we do have an idea about a few of them. One appears like an arrow aiming upwards. It will bend its single leg to point said arrow in one direction. Some use this as a way to guide the pack or to bring attention to something near them. One appears like a screaming face, its mouth a dark black pattern taking up most of its head. This seems to be a sign of danger, a warning to steer clear. If it's a cube, they will find shelter. But just like our signs, many tend to disregard them, hence why we gave them the name Disinragards. They disregard signs. Dis-sign regard. I'm rather proud of that one, actually. Anyway, the Disinragards attempt to get the attention of other species, but most tend to ignore them or treat them as their next meal. Some seem to attack either as a form of self-defense or from pure annoyance. They've even tried to use the arrow form to bring attention to the drones, but with no avail. They don't seem to have any prey to hunt, but they do have many predators. They, I assume, are the prey animals of this world. When being hunted, they can inflate their head until it explodes to let out a deafening pop to scare off any hunters. Maybe order doesn't belong in this world, but they aren't the only ones to try anyway. Anyone else feel a sense of nostalgia when it comes to the early 2010s era of Let's Plays? Yeah, looking back, it was bad YouTube changed its algorithm to focus more on minutes watched than views because it meant that short film directors and animators were screwed over. It encouraged creators to push quantity over quality. But if there's one good thing that came from it all, it's that indie horror games and the indie scene in general really started to thrive here. Because if it wasn't for Let's Players, certain titles like Happy Wheels, Five Nights at Freddy's, AO Oni, or Surgeon Simulator probably would have never blown up like they did. One such game that was able to gain more success because of this scene was Amnesia, The Dark Descent. A first-person horror game developed by Frictional Games that quickly became one of the biggest within the indie horror scene, even if it's not as talked about today as I'd argue it should be. Now, some of you may be confused. If you're familiar with this channel, you may know that I already did a review of this game back in 2021. So why am I doing it again? Well, mainly because I'm not that satisfied with it, for it was only 6 minutes long. I think we would need more than just 6 minutes to go over this game, but why was it so short? I have this rule that to review a game, I must either beat it, or at least experience everything that it has to offer. If I get to the last level or final boss, then it'll count. But when I did that review in 2021, I never actually beat the game. Heck, I only got less than an hour into it actually. The farthest I got was right after I made the acid to melt away the flesh in my way. For those who have actually played the game, you will know that isn't far at all. I'm afraid! But it's okay, because I intend to right my wrongs and do the thing that I should have done almost half a decade ago, and that's beat the game and give it the review it deserves. Welcome to Cackling Pumpkins, and this is Amnesia: The Dark Descent. When you start the game, you wake up in a castle-like structure with little to no knowledge of where you are, how you got there, or even who you are. You explore the castle to find a note from yourself, telling you that you must go deep into the manor, kill its baron, Alexander, and beware of the entity called the Shadow that is hunting you down. Your name is Daniel, and you're in the Brenningburg Castle, but why don't you remember any of this? Well, that's because Daniel took a concoction that erased his memory, horrified by what he has done during his stay at the castle. As you progress from the game, you find more notes not just from Daniel, but also other characters as well. These notes give you more context as to the horrible things that happened here. But if you skim one or two, you won't be missing too much, as the main story is also told through memories that will unearth from Daniel's mind as he marches through the manor.
We're not getting out of here.
How can you say that? Alexander, you piece of shit!
I don't want to go over too much of the story as not to spoil it, though let's just say that a lot of fucked up shit happened here. The memories, notes, and even the environment tell you more than enough. The game is a first-person horror game where you must solve puzzles, avoid monsters, and find your way to Alexander, all while keeping your sanity. Staying in the dark for too long causes you to slowly lose your mind. Keeping your sanity up is important as it makes you suffer hallucinations and makes you more vulnerable. The madness you'll go through is the blood of the horrors here. You'll hear voices of random people who aren't there, screams of women, cries of children, and men asking if anyone is there. Sometimes you'll hear certain noises depending on the location you're in. Your vision gets wobbly, you lose your balance, bugs will crawl on your screen, you'll see things that aren't there, and it'll make it easier for monsters to appear. To keep your sanity up, you must stay in the light, finding consistent light sources, keeping your lantern filled with oil, and finding tinder boxes to light up torches are all crucial for your mind. For me, having a constant light source isn't hard because I get fucking ballsy and just run through the darkness. What's gonna happen? Am I gonna hear voices in my head? Yeah, get in line, I get enough wacky characters in my brain, and I talk to myself already. What else is new? My vision will get wobbly? I look at a screen most of the day, that's literally my job. The only thing I'd get concerned about is seeing bugs everywhere. Hey, I'm not perfect. I'll forget to vacuum every once in a while, or maybe there'll be an empty bottle of water on my desk, but I don't live in filth. I'm nowhere near as bad as Asmongold. But your madness isn't the only thing you have to worry about, for there are monsters lurking around the manor. These include the Grunt, probably the most iconic monster in the game, even if he looks a little goofy. But don't say that to his face, because he'll only get half of it since his jaw's ripped off. He'll chase you down, and after a few strikes, you're dead, and you'll have to respawn at the beginning of the room you're in. Don't think you can outrun him because he's slightly faster than you. Your best option is to hide and wait for him to leave. Then there's I don't know, or the water monster. Walking through flooded halls, it'll follow your every step. Even if you're standing on a box, the vibrations will get it to move toward you. While you're safe outside of the water, you'll have to enter the depths eventually. You can use objects to throw it in other parts of the room to distract him. What's cool about this monster is that you never truly see what it looks like. It is completely invisible, so minus its massive steps, you can never truly tell where it is exactly. The fact that you can't see it just adds to the horror because it makes your mind wonder what it really looks like. Lastly, there's the Brute. These things are even stronger than the Grunts, as you can survive a hit or two from them, but the Brute, however, can kill you in one hit, even if you're at full health. I think the only downside about the game is that while the monsters are good at putting up a chase, they're also pretty dumb. Ah, you can't see me, for I am Cube! Huh. They aren't the brightest, but they aren't pushovers either. They're still intimidating, just a bit silly. They're easy to fool and easy to get killed by. You don't have to have a high IQ to be scary. You know the old saying, brains versus whoa.
Daniel? Like a prophet thrown into the lion's den? Tell me, are you among the lions, Daniel? You want to stop Alexander? Oh my. So Babylon shall fall, you say.
But what about the shadow the game constantly talks about? Well, think of it as less of a literal shadow and more like an infestation. As you progress through the game, everything seems fine, but when you return to certain areas, you'll see red fleshy bits and pulsating masses covering the interior. This is the shadow. No one knows exactly what the shadow is. All we know is that it's this otherworldly entity that leaves this flesh-like residue everywhere it goes. It protects mystical orbs that if anyone has any sort of contact with, then the shadow will hunt them down. These monsters start becoming more common as you get deeper into the manor. Both these creatures and sanity effects are what makes this game stand out. This game, and Frictional in general, really understands how to scare the player without just throwing random jump scares or relying too much on the monster themselves, while still integrating it all with the story. And what's even better is that the game is honestly fun on its own too. It's mainly because of the physics. You can pick up, rotate, and throw items across the room with no problem. Even if it looks too heavy to toss around, you can still do it with ease. This is probably one of the funniest horror games I've ever played, and it's all because of the physics. Being able to pick up and throw objects around or slam them about is one of the funniest things you could do in any game.
Alright, I've had enough of this. You're just like your father. And another thing!
Alright, so I'm gonna throw this torso into the water to distract the monster. You think that's a good idea, big guy? Alright, I knew you'd agree.
Oh, Jesus! Oh, fuck! Barrel be upon ye!
It's sort of like Half-Life. Both are already great games, but the fact that you can just throw things around makes it even better.
But it's not very immersive. I don't see any hands holding it up. Isn't this a horror game, by the way? This removes the scare factor.
Shut the fuck up. Games are meant to be fun, and this is indeed fun. Sometimes there's a thing as too much polish and immersion. Games need to be at least a little janky or embrace the fact that they're a video game to be fun. Also, it doesn't remove from the experience. The game is still scary. It's just that I get to take little moments to fuck around. But if I do too much, I'm bound to find out. Think about it like this. The goofy moments that you can experience may actually make certain moments scarier. From when you make yourself laugh at the dumb things that you can do, it lowers your guard and makes you more susceptible to the terrors around your corner. This is why many people like myself believe that horror and comedy go hand in hand. Also, you control the buttons you press. If you don't want to throw objects around randomly, you don't have to. Only when the game needs you to, which is kinda rare. Certain puzzles can be a little confusing, not because the game isn't direct, but rather because you might forget one obvious key. While certain objects can only be broken by certain tools you pick up, other times you're left wondering what to use to progress. But there's one last thing you sometimes forget to use, and it's not something you can collect in your inventory. It's your bare hands. Sometimes I'll be running around trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do next, when the solution could be as simple as wiggle the jiggle.
How could I ever forget to make something jiggle when I draw things that we're born to? It's second nature to me, how easy it is for us to forget our roots.
But besides that, most of the puzzles are pretty straightforward. Just pay attention to the notes and explore every room you can, and you'll have no problem figuring out what to do. The only one time I really needed help, minus just realizing all I had to do was jiggly wiggly woo, was when I had to look for the 3 rods needed to start the engine. The first 2 were easy to find. It's the third one I had trouble with, because I didn't know you could break this one window, as you never had to break a window before in this game. It was the only one time it felt a little obtuse, but that could just be me not having a brain. Frictional is a studio that understands the horror genre better than most. And the majority of their games from The Dark Descent, Soma, and The Bunker really prove this. This game also has a good modding community that likes to create new stories and experiences in the game. This alone makes Amnesia The Dark Descent worth checking out, because even if you don't like the main game, you've still got hours of content to explore with the mods. There is another creature that attempted to bring some order into Twisterror. The more capitalistic type of order, but order nonetheless. The first creature that we discovered to live almost exclusively in these ground-risen buildings is the Loadstock. It appears as a set of shelves similar to that of an aisle in a store. They're always seen in a pack, but the size of the pack is dependent on the population of the area and the size of the building. Sometimes there are only about 10, or maybe even hundreds of them, but they are never alone. They remain completely stationary. While we can't discount the possibility that they can move, we have yet to record such an event. Despite this, the shelves are always full. Rocks, meat, jars of what appears to be lightning bugs, I'm assuming, and much more. Some of the items seem to be similar to the other creatures of Twisterror. I believe I saw the backrest of a Lessrest and the deflated head of a Disinragard on them. Also, a large hand with 7 fingers? How could they get these things? Easy. They deal with thieves very efficiently. They stand perfectly still, and if a creature stalks into a building, they become tempted by the items the loadstock presents. If they take one and attempt to flee, the loadstock will collapse on them, its weight crushing their bodies as its shelves chop them up. As they stand back up, the shelves are fuller than ever. The creatures of Twister are much more tempted by the loadstocks with more items. Some have managed to escape with their desired item, but it seems that the loadstock have an impeccable memory, as they aren't as patient if the thief returns to the scene of the crime, sometimes crushing them before they can even grab an item. There is one way to take what's on the shelf and survive. This is where the rocks come in. A Disinragard came into the store. It appeared to be kicking a rock in front of it. It slowly crept in, walking through the aisles, even looking around as if it was browsing. It stops and notices a jar of those strange fireflies that never go out. It took a few tries, but it managed to kick the rock onto the shelf as it inflated its head into a balloon and wrapped it around the jar. It cautiously bounced away, and yet, the loadstock did nothing. It took the exchange. But what if the Disinragard tried to take something else without offering more? I guess we'll have to wait and see, but I would assume that it wouldn't be too happy. I suppose the loadstock succeeded where the Disinragard failed. It's bringing order to Twister, but how long can this order last?
Guys, Sonic was never good. Ever since 1991, Sonic has only had 4 games, and those are Sonic.EXE, Shadow the Hedgehog, Boomwise of Lyric, and Sonic Forces. There has never been any other release in the franchise, and even if there was, we'd probably have to go on an adventure throughout generations and across frontiers to find one that obviously doesn't exist. And why does he have to have these big stories? Really, he's a cartoon character. Cartoons can't have big stories. Every plot should just be Eggman bad, be Eggman. Also, Sonic has awful friends. I mean, really, look at this one. Sonic but edgy with guns? Wow, talk about cringe. And everyone knows that Sonic fans are the only ones to make weird OCs and fetish art. No other community or fandom on the internet has ever done that. Also, speaking of Sonic fans, did you know? Chris Chan, semi-classic Sonic fan, they like Sonic.
They also like Nintendo, but that doesn't count.
And that's why Sonic is cringe and terrible, and you all should feel ashamed for liking the series. Oh, hang on guys, I spontaneously need to check my mail.
Add, warrant for my arrest, add, court hearing, add, man, there's a lot of mail here. Oh, what's this? A letter from my lifelong pal Kyle. He lives right down the street, so I have no idea why he felt the need to send this through the mail. He's such a character. Anyway, let's read what he has to say.
Dear Tom, I recently heard that you just woke up from your coma caused by a car accident in 2017. Remember the one that killed 6 adults, 6 kids, and 6 puppies, and you were driving on your way back from the bar? Yeah, that one. Anyway, I know you're probably really excited to make that Sonic is cringe video that you had scripted before the accident, but I just want you to know that it's 2025 and Sonic is cool again. After a trilogy of successful films, a popular line of comics from IDW, a game that saved a franchise in the form of Sonic Frontiers, plus Shadow Generations, yes, people like him again and even want him to use guns. Among several other things, people have grown to appreciate Sonic. Also, ever since 2020, most people hate cringe culture, as we all realized that it was just bullying children for liking things that the millennials at the time didn't understand, and how a lot of it became an alt-right pipeline. We celebrate its death and dance on its grave. But if you really want to make money off of being a judgmental prick, then you can pay the Nazi-saluting billionaire Elon Musk $8 a month so you can get paid for rage-baiting posts on Twitter. Side note, it seems like I'm being haunted by some sort of interdimensional demon that I can't get a good look at because it's too dang fast. It made me play this. Destroy the disc. I can't because he's too fast for me. Also, I am dead. P.S. Please call the police. I am pretty sure no one has found my body. Gertrude has complained about the smell and I do not want her to be the one to find me. She is such a sweet old lady and she makes the best chili dogs. Seriously, ask her for a recipe. Also, you have the only piece of evidence to the cause of my death. I still recommend snapping it in half, but I wouldn't touch it too much as to avoid getting your fingerprints on it. You just woke up from a coma, and I wouldn't want you to go to jail or even a psych ward because I know you're gonna see that thing too. Anyway, have a nice day, hugs and kisses. Please call a priest.
Well, there goes that video. Funny how things change, I guess. Apparently, snapping a disc in half takes more time than writing a letter, walking outside, and putting both into the mailbox. So obviously, this is a joke. A little bit of a gaffe he's having. Well, I've got nothing better to do. I wonder what he did with this. He better not have put Bogsy Buddy on it again, I swear to God. Oh hey, it's Sonic! I love this series! To be honest, I wasn't that big on the first game, but the second is epic. Oh, no. He fucked up my graphics card! Now the ocean and the skies look red. Kyle, you dickhead! Just for that, your body will rot another day before I call the police. If poor old Gertrude finds it before then, that's on you. Oh well, at least everything else looks fine. So we added a character select screen. Neat! Kinda weird that Sonic isn't selectable on his own game. That's 2 points deducted already. Let's just play as Tails for now. Very experimental music. Green Hill, very nice. Can't go wrong with that. Maybe you could have spent more time on the level design, as it is just a straight line with no obstacles. I sure hope this doesn't become a running theme for other games like this. Wait, is that... Oh god. Kyle's trying to push his veganism agenda again. I don't care how many pixelated bloody animals you show me, Taco Bell fucks! And just for that, I'm going to have DoorDash send McDonald's to your doorstep so that your fellow vegan friends think that you're a fraud. And you're dead, so there's nothing you can do about it. Oh, there's Sonic. He doesn't seem so good, though. He's not mad. He's just disappointed. Okay, apparently he is mad because he busted a damn blood vessel.
Hello. Do you want to play with me?
Aren't I already? This is a video game after all.
Hide and seek.
Not it! Oh, thank God I'm not it. When we were kids, my sister would always make me be it first. It was very frustrating. I think she was just trying to get rid of me so she could hang out with her friends without me. You know hide and seek is only really fun when there are places to hide? All I see are flames, and I'm pretty sure fur is flammable. Hey, you didn't even give me a chance to hide, you dickhead! This is making me mad! Oh! Damn it, now you gave me a busted blood vessel!
You're too slow. Try again.
Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I should have tried harder against the fastest thing alive. My bad. I'll do better next time. Oh, so I lose a character if I can't beat the stage? While it is a very unique take on the life system, I do not appreciate the obtuse design. Also, great, now Tails also has a busted blood vessel. This is like an epidemic at this point, like the one that apparently happened 5 years ago. I don't know because I was in a coma, but from what I heard, that shit was wild. Let's try Knuckles. Hopefully he doesn't get a busted blood vessel too. After all, unlike Sonic, he does not giggle.
You can't run.
Oh yeah, idiot? What does it look like I'm doing? Checkmate, atheists. Also, you really need to improve your level design. Still a straight line, I see. Hey, stop trying to change the channel. I'm trying to play Sonic. I do not care if they hit the Pentagon. I want to play Sonic. Oh great, someone spilled some tomato paste all over the place. Looks like someone got sprayed by a skunk. And I'm walking towards their direction, so I'm gonna be a real stinky boy soon. But I must admit, this tomato paste seems rather, what's the term? Extremely authentic? Oh hey Sonic, wanna help me out with this? I'm thinking of a phrase that describes how impressive these visuals are.
Certainly truthful.
Nah, that's not it.
Absolutely lifelike.
Close, we're getting there. Oh, I know, it's hey! Were we actually just having a conversation?
We sure are, Tom.
Oh. Sick! Kyle must have learned how to integrate AI into this ROM to generate responses.
What?
Strange take on Sonic's voice, though. Hey, do me a favor and say, gotta go fast?
I've got one better for you. So many souls to play with, so little time. Wouldn't you agree?
You see, that makes it very hard to compare your voice to the actual character because I'm pretty sure he has never said that before.
You really don't understand what is happening to you.
What? You expect me to believe that you're an actual demon and a killer of my lifelong pal Rooney that decided that of all forms to take, it chose Sonic the Hedgehog? You know, I'd be a little more inclined to believe it if you chose a better form. Like maybe a dark robot Sonic with fire coming out of his chest like a fern is, or Sonic if he was a big smiling kaiju, or a pale white beefy Mario, or even Sir Daniel Fortescue from the hit PlayStation 1 classic Medieval released in 1998. Wait, is this just because I made that Sonic as a cringe script?
You'll see very soon.
Okay, you're a dick, but okay, Eggman it is. Ooh, checkerboard floors, fascinating. Oh, and would you look at that, you actually improved your level design. Steers! Not very functional ones, but it's still something. You're getting there, champ. Piano music, very nice. Perfectly haunting and soothing for the soul, and wow, a color change! I see you fixed my graphics card. Maybe you're not that much of an anus after all. I almost want to stay here for a bit.
Sure, you can stay forever, and I will know I am God.
Oh God, no! Get away from me, you skeletal demon! Get back! Get back, I'm warning you!
Ready for round 2.
Most of the creatures we've seen of Twister are much like the animals of our world. Unless they need to feed, they will typically avoid contact with other creatures or stick with a pack. None seem to be really hostile. That is until we saw the Neves. One of the researchers was venturing through a forest. He had noticed that one major difference between the trees of our world and the trees of Twister is that their trees appear as massive poles coming out of the ground, with only a few smaller poles protruding outward. Even if the tree it is attempting to replicate is full of branches and leaves, the Twister version only will have a fraction of that amount, if any. Leaves are not replicated, most likely because they are not a constant, and that's another thing we've noticed. Even if they're artificial or natural, something like leaves are not replicated in Twister because they don't remain in the same position for an extended period of time. They sprout during the spring, and during the autumn season, they lose their color and fall to the ground. It would seem that something has to be rooted to the earth for at least a year for it to be replicated in the world of Twister. Maybe longer. We're still not entirely sure. But while flying through the almost industrial appearing forest, fog began to roll in. but the drone still caught something unique. The silhouette of what looks like a tree from our world. It's not completely straight in shape, and appears to have a natural amount of branches. It sticks out with all of its detail, but we've learned what detail means in this world. Minimalism equals lifeless structures, as detail represents life. That thing is not a tree. It's imitating one. We tried to study it, but the fog was dense. It made things hard to see, so we took a risk and got a bit closer. Its full form was still in frame when we heard the most hellish noise this world ever produced. It was like a chorus of distant guttural screams, a mix between a human in pain and an animal's growl. The branches began to move, almost like they're swinging in the wind. Some clutched to the ground beneath it as others reached to the sky. We began to move back, but before we could even touch the controls, that thing ran at us at incredible speeds. Far faster than its size would make you think it would. It slammed the drone on the ground and tore it apart in seconds. And just like that, we lost signal. Another drone managed to capture the explosion of the nuclear battery from the distance. Thankfully, it's nowhere near as powerful as a nuclear weapon, but the explosion was still massive. There was no way that thing survived. And yet, running out of the fiery cloud was a massive tree-like structure. It was covered in flames, yet still it appeared to only be slightly burned. No real damage was done to it. While these things can hurt, and thus die, they're far more resistant than anything on Earth. Perhaps there's a reason for the separation between realms. Looking at the footage of the Neves in slow motion, which one of the scientists called, due to the number of limbs, 7. In reverse, that's Neves. We couldn't believe what we were seeing. It wasn't clawing at the drone. It was taking bites. At the end of each finger was something that resembled a human fingernail, but with each supposed scratch, the nail would lift up, revealing a tiny set of razor-sharp thin teeth. Those weren't fingers. They were mouths. Which means those aren't arms or legs. They're its necks or throats. With its torso being one big stomach. At least it's what it seems like. We can only make a guess from the footage. RPG Maker, a series of game development software made to help people make, well, RPGs. It's a very flexible software that can help people learn the basics of game development with little to no coding experience. But it's not just good for making RPGs. It's also famously become well known within the horror scene. Some people may look down on these games for their simpler appearances and gameplay style.
These kind of games can't be good or scary.
Oh yeah? You may Nikki, Off, Eve, Misal, The Witch's House, Mad Father, Crooked Man, Fear and Hunger, Corpse Party, Omari, and so much more. RPG Maker could do a lot if you have the right know-how and ambition. Software is just a tool. What the developer decides to do with that tool is up to them. One such case is AO Oni. In the early 2010s, AO Oni became somewhat popular due to the Let's Play scene. Many people in the West think this little RPG Maker game is all there is, but in Japan, however, it is a force to be reckoned with. It's a massive horror franchise with several games, manga adaptations, anime, and movies, and it all came from this tiny little RPG Maker game. If that's not proof that RPG Maker games can succeed, then I don't know what is. But is it really good? And if so, does it still hold up? Welcome to Cackling Pumpkins, and this is AO Oni. You play as Hiroshi, a high schooler, of fucking course, who goes into a mansion in town with his friends, hearing rumors that the place might be haunted. Things immediately go wrong when the door locks behind them and they get separated. Hiroshi must find his friends and a way to escape before he meets a fate worse than death. For they're being hunted by the AO Oni, sometimes referred to as the Blue Monster. The AO Oni is the mascot of the entire franchise. It is the thing that always returns whenever a new installment or interpretation is made, always keeping his iconic appearance intact. the large purple body, his even larger head, his eyes and mouth too big for his face, a face only the internet could love. Some might look at this guy and laugh, as others might find him terrifying. To me, he's a good mix of both. He's goofy, but also uncanny. He's disfigured in such a way that allows him to cross the bridge between both. It's no wonder why he's so popular in Japan, as a lot of their horrors often bridge that gap as well. I mean, really, one of the weaknesses of the slit-mouthed woman is to throw candy at her. Willy Wonka could kick her ass! The game goes by classic RPG movement, which makes sense considering the game engine it was made on. You have your traditional 4-directional movement, being able to interact with items in the environment and in inventory. It's pretty much what you would expect from an RPG Maker horror game. It's hard to really talk about the controls and gameplay, as it's simple, but not only is that by design, but the main star of the game isn't the controls, but rather the scares. Some genres can get a pass for being simple to control, like visual novels, as the main focus isn't about the gameplay, but rather how it can convey a story in an interactive manner, like Doki Doki Literature Club. The game is simpler as it is a virtual novel, but it succeeds in so much by allowing the player to take the story at their own pace, and the interactive aspects still justify it being a game. So I can't take any points down, or even really praise it, because the gameplay isn't meant to be the main focus here. But god damn these visuals! It's not ugly by all means, it's just visually uninteresting. The only part that actually stands out is the Aoi himself. Everything else is just bland. The game is a perfect example of how RPG Maker can make scary games, but not a good example as to what the software can do visually. These kind of games can show that a good-looking game isn't about graphical fidelity, but rather its artistic direction. I mean, just look at Off or Yume Nikki. Those games look great, though this pales in comparison. No, the focus is more on puzzle solving and horrors, so how does it work in that regard? For the horror, it's pretty good. As you're wandering around the mansion, the Aoi could randomly just walk in and start chasing you, and this thing doesn't give up very easily. Even when you think you've lost him, he's never truly gone until the music fades out. He is just as fast as you, and he will take the most efficient route to reach you. It's hard to rush by him, so your best bet is to make sure you don't make any misinputs while you're trying to run from him. You can hide from him, but that can only work if he's not already in the same room as you. He may not look it, but he is smarter than most monsters in the genre. You may think he looks stupid, but how dare you? That is very rude. Go to the bathroom. Look in the mirror. Observe. Notice a blemish, pimple, crow's feet, a single gray hair. Go to bed. Ponder. Regret. Despair. Dream of your crush laughing at you after asking them out. See? It doesn't feel so good now, does it? Wake up. Ponder again. Be a better person. Have a nice day. And as you progress through the game, he starts popping up in all sorts of weird places. Some look like your friends, and you even find other variants that have their own ways of chasing you. So the horrors are great, but what about the puzzles? How do they compare? Not very good. Yeah, I take it back. They suck. These have got to be some of the most asinine puzzles I have ever came across. Most people criticize super easy puzzles. I'd rather deal with the most basic color matching puzzle known to man, because at least those go by so quickly that it doesn't even really matter. But these puzzles will make you run around the mansion looking like a stupid idiot. The solution to the puzzles, or even the process of getting the solution, feels so random. None of them make any sense, and even if they did, they don't give you any hints or indication as to what the solution could be. Look at these bookshelves, for example. Does the game give any indication that one is more important than the others? No? So there must be a visual indication, right? Well, go ahead, pick a bookshelf. Which one of these bookshelves looks the most unique to you? Which one did you pick? Was it this one? How? Now you're probably thinking that's not bad, and you'd be right, it's not that bad. Because the later puzzles are even more random. Take this hidden chapel, for example. Anything unique you see here? I'll give you a few seconds. Time's up. It's this 2-pixel tall, long brown pole that's behind the also brown seats.
Oh, but it gets worse.
You see this set of wooden dolls? There's 2 sets of them in parallel rooms. One of them has a red stone as an eye. You pick it up. There's a statue in another. Push it to the entrance. Push it down the stairs. Chase scene. Go back to the rubble. Now there's a blue stone. Put it in the doll's head. Go to the fireplace. Light it on fire. Then you burn the doll. Pick up the stones. Go back to the right doll room. Put the stones in the eyes of what was the middle doll, but now it's the right one. Its head falls off. Why? I don't know. Pick it up. Now put a light bulb inside the doll where its head used to be. Turn off the light in the room. The shadow of the second doll will point to the wall. Cut in the spot to open it. Door's revealed, but it's locked. Egad. Dead child. Also egad. By the way, in the same room as the dead child, there is also a sliding puzzle to the left. No, you don't have to solve it. Just shove the doll head in the hole. It moves. There's now a safe with a passcode. Where do you get it? Well, remember the fire you threw the doll in? Go upstairs where the chimney leads. The passcode reveals itself on a piece of paper on the wall because of the fire or smoke or something. I don't know, you got me. Open the safe, and boom, you've got the basement key. Another chase. Fall in a hole. Get out. No, not literally. Get back here. Now open the door you found. Simple, right? And that's not even the only puzzle that's like this. There are a few puzzles that will make you want to leak the nuclear codes. And once again, a lot of these give you little to no hint or indication that you can do any of this. While playing the game, I had to consult a walkthrough constantly because I had no idea what I was supposed to do most of the time. None of it is obvious, nor does it give you any ideas to what you're supposed to do. And while the scares are good, the puzzles just make them annoying, because after going through so many rooms, you'll have to deal with a random chase before you can even progress. Even after solving a puzzle, before you can even progress, you'll have to deal with another scripted chase. It's not even worth it most of the time. Many of the big reveals of the story just become, oh yeah, that's interesting. Because you just gave yourself a migraine from dealing with all of that. I don't even like using my brain, it hurts my head. I can completely understand why the Ayo Oni is so popular in Japan. The monster himself is recognizable, silly but still uncanny looking, intimidating, and smarter than he seems. But the actual game, especially the puzzles, are just annoying to deal with. It's hard for me to recommend this game to others. It was remastered and released on Steam and the Nintendo Switch, but I'd only recommend it if you really want to experience the game that introduced one of the internet's most beloved monsters. Try it if you don't mind having a walkthrough open at all times, but if you don't like that, trust me, there's a lot of RPG Maker games to choose from. As there is no moon or sun in Twist Error, that means there is no night or day. Of course, the passage of time still exists, but we're still uncertain on how time can be measured here. For now, we're going off of how time works in our world, until we have a complete understanding of it. But while there is no moon or stars above when they fill the sky in our world, there do seem to be creatures that mimic them. A scientist once saw what seemed to look like a shooting star. Another thought it was a fast-moving firefly. Well, it seems like it might be a bit of both. We call them Starmites. They are small beings that seem to be made out of nothing but light. At least that's what we figure from what we can see, as they're so bright that no matter how much we alter the footage, we cannot see a body or any form of mass inside them. They really do seem to be sentient sparkles floating around. They don't seem to be bothered by the drones. Either they lack natural predators, or they don't see normally. Maybe they're like jellyfish, alive but lacking consciousness. They simply are. Whatever the case may be, we did find something interesting about them. Perhaps they are our method to measuring time in this world. As after days of studying them, we noticed that the number of active Starmites changes at certain points. For 119 hours, there are barely any in the sky, as many as you can easily count with your fingers. But as those 119 hours progress, more and more Starmites appear. And when we enter the 120th hour, the sky is filled with them. It's like seeing a grass field in a summer night and watching dozens of fireflies dance. But this time, it's hundreds, if not thousands of them. It's the most beautiful sight that Twist Error has ever produced. Many were beginning to believe that this world was filled with nothing but horrors, but the horrors haven't started yet. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. A bit of a story time before we go into an objectively worse story. So in the early 2010s, when many people call this the, by the way, I'm not going off of a script, so if I stumble my words and I repeat things I shouldn't, that's why. I'm not very good at talking. Oh, so I've been drinking a little bit. It was just to make this a little more entertaining. No, I'm not doing the whole, like, whoa, this media is so bad, I need a bigger bottle, like, you know, that standard angry video game nerd clone joke. No, I'm just doing this because I'm bored. I'm drinking because I'm bored. No, I'm doing this to look back on stuff. But anyway, in the early 2010s, many people refer to it as the classic era of creepypasta, even though creepypasta has been a thing ever since the internet has been a thing. And there's multiple creepypastas that came before the 2010s. The very first version of Jeff the Killer came in 2009. Slender Man came in 2009. One of the earliest creepypastas that many people can recall is like Ted the Caver. I think that's like 2002, I think. I could be wrong on that. But anyway, there's a reason why a lot of people look at the early 2010s as the classic era of creepypasta. That was a point in time when it was starting to get, like, more popular. For better or worse, there was definitely a lot of people who were, I'm sure you've heard the joke of, like, the kid that was high on Monster Energy drink, slapping together bad horror stories based on video games and cartoons. And did you know, I was one of them. I was not only listening to creepypastas, I thought I could make my own, and it would be just as beloved as all those other big famous creepypastas. Needless to say, that's definitely not the case. I'm doing this because I have stumbled upon, quite possibly, my very first creepypasta, or at least the earliest that was posted online. I just randomly looked up Super Mario Bros. Slender as a joke, and got reminded, oh shit, I made this. This is a thing that I made. Oh no. So we're gonna go through and read this creepypasta that I know I slapped together in just one night. With no second thought, and thought it was like, oh, it's gonna be the best thing ever. People are gonna love this more than No End House. I guarantee it. Now, I like to definitely think that, you know, my craft as a creator has improved at least marginally since then. So keep in mind, this is not really reflective of my current quality. Hey, I'm not here reading this for, like, to be like, well, look at how great the story is. Just to look back on how, like, yeah, my fucking writing skills were at the time. Anyway, I wasted enough time, let's get started. This is Super Mario Bros. 8 Pages Edition. I even put in my name at the time on it. Gothic Slender Man. Man, that takes me back. This is on the Some Ordinary Gamers fandom wiki. This is back when Mutahara used to do creepypasta related content. Before he started doing, like, I don't know. But what does he do now? He does other things. He doesn't do that horror stuff anymore. I love how this starts immediately. Look at this. OMG, Slender for the PC is so good, Mario fanboys can suck it! I don't know why this has to do with Mario. Slender and Mario are two completely different things. But hey, nothing can beat the original Slender, as the story entails. That's my life nearly every day. I can't stand it. Who cares? It's just a game where you have to collect notes and... Oh! It was being sarcastic! Okay. I understand now, and run from this Slender Man character. But the character itself does interest me. He is a creepypasta / internet meme / video game character, and even more. He became popular over these past few years. I never was a fan of creepypasta or anything horror related. My best friend Austin always said, horror games and creepypastas are for... Whoa buddy, calm down there. I don't think I actually wrote the word. I think I censored it, but yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that. That's not good. Keep in mind, edgy teenager who didn't know any better. He's kind of a stereotypical dude. You know, maybe that's the reason I typed that, to be like, oh, this is the stereotypical douchebag. He uses the F slur. But that's not why I don't like it. My name is Richard Samuels, and I think Slender is overrated. There! I said it! I was on the internet after hearing even more about the Slender Man guy. I saw something interesting. Play NES games for free. Nintendo8.com was a website where almost every NES game was easily playable for free without any download. This is actually true. Way back when, in like the late 2000s, there was a website. Not official by all means. It was called Nintendo8.com, where it just cataloged like God knows how many NES games that you could just play in your browser. Borderline, like, piracy, but little kid me didn't care. It was like, well, I can play Super Mario Bros. On my keyboard. That's all I cared about. I don't think that website even exists anymore. Heck, I don't even know if it was really safe. So I don't recommend people going to the, like, website if it even is still a thing. Because if it isn't, then it might even be, like, even more virus infested now. I don't know. Don't take the risk. Never played the original Mario, so I figured I'd give it a try. Yeah, this is kinda random, a little epic random XD. Kinda awkward. But hey, I would do anything just for Slender fanboys to shut their mouths. They're almost as bad as Black Ops fanboys, but the fuck. I liked Black Ops. I liked Black Ops. What did I have to do against Black Ops fans or Call of Duty fans at the time? Was I just trying to, like, write the most stereotypical angry douchebag character I can think of? I'm thinking that's what's happening. I'm starting to realize that maybe I'm writing this story in the perspective of just an angry, judgmental prick. Again, I was putting some thought into it. I think at the time, even back then in 2013, people were starting to recognize all the cliches of video game creepypastas, and I wanted to be I wanted to avoid all of those. I want to do something different, and thus people will like it. So I thought, instead of going to a retro game store and they just gave me a free copy of Mario 64 because it kept getting returned or some shit like that, it's oh, I went to this bootleg website. Or instead of just being a guy filled with curiosity and nostalgia, I just wrote it as a stereotypical douchebag. So I'll give myself props for trying something different, but different isn't always good. Anyway, I went down this incredibly long list of NES games and finally found it, Super Mario Bros. In blue link text. I clicked it and scrolled the screen down to get a better view of the game. All I had to do was use the directional buttons as an NES controller's D-pad, press Z as A and X as B, and the game started. Look at that. We're in the game. We are in the game. Ooh! We have a fake screenshot I most likely slapped together in MS Paint. Ooh! Gray sky. Slender Man trying to be in the style of the NES game. I guess maybe I thought if I had a visual representation that people would like it more too. You know, like Ben Drowned, but this was nowhere near in the level of Ben Drowned. I pressed enter as start to start the game. Thank you for that. I wasn't sure what enter would mean in this case. Thank you for clarifying in the parentheses. I was the 8-bit looking Mario running around, collecting coins, jumping on Goombas, and shooting fireballs. Everything was exactly the same as the original. Not that I would know, because apparently in the story I also said I never played Super Mario Bros. Before, so how in God's name would I even know that? I got to 1-4, Bowser's first castle out of 8. I jumped over the spinning fire things and his very slow fireballs, and there he was, just jumping around and shooting fireballs like a goof. That part wasn't there. I added that for flair. I jumped over him and grabbed the axe-looking object on account of the fact that it was an axe. Bowser had his cartoonish death I kept seeing on YouTube. Ow, I was thinking, oh god, I'm gonna have to see Toad. I've heard he's a dick in this game. Thank you, Mario, but our princess is in another castle. Now, I gotta explain this. There's a reason why I said this. In the very, mid-2000s of YouTube, everyone would make, very angry videos being like, oh, Toad is such a dick. Well, he always sent you to another castle. Well, I'm sure it's it was all done as a joke. Little kid me didn't understand this. Everyone saying, oh, we all hated the Duck Hunt dog because he'd laugh at us. But it was all just exaggerating for the sake of it. Little kid me and teenager me didn't understand this. I remember Screw Attack back then, and it's a shame to think about Screw Attack, especially since Stuttering Craig has gone down that alt-right, anti-woke grifter pipeline, right? But back then, I think he's the one who even made the joke of oh, the sprite looks like he's giving you the bird. And it kind of does. I always think of that whenever I see Toad's NES sprite. It really does look like he's flipping you off. Well, I can't say it's annoying, because this is my first time playing the game, but instead of Toad, I saw a light brown vertical rectangle. Now, for some reason, I was in control of Mario, so I decided to touch whatever it was, and when I did, the screen went black. White 8-bit text came on screen. 1 out of 8 pages collected. Oh, that was a page? What, so this is a hacked Mario game? I knew there was something wrong with this site. A Slender Mario? Oh, how original. Ugh, but I digress. Maybe this won't be so bad. I got to World 2-1 and noticed the sky was gray. Everything was normal though. Then after jumped on a few blocks, there he was. Nice grammar there. I knew it. The Slender Man. No, not a hyper-realistic Slender Man. An 8-bit Slender Man on the same row of blocks as Mario. I bet I brought up hyper-realistic as meant to be well, this is a jab at Sonic.EXE saying hyper-realistic. I'm like, bro, you got no room to talk with this level of writing. And this is coming from you in the future, you idiot. Anyway, I turned around, but when he did, Mario shrunk down as if damaged, so I decided to get Mario out of there while I still could. After Slenderman got off screen, the sky went back to blue. I went to 2-4, beat Bowser, and got the second note. So, I do kind of like the, gameplay idea I presented here. The idea of, Slenderman is always following Mario, and if you turn to the left, you'll take damage, because in Super Mario Bros., you can't go back. Once you go right, what's left doesn't exist anymore. So I thought you wouldn't turn left too often in Super Mario Bros., but just enough that, if there was something that would, impede you from turning left, giving you damage, Like, that was a neat idea. I'll give myself credit. That's a neat idea. Too bad the story is friggin'... It's gonna get worse from here, I guarantee you. I'm starting to remember some stuff. Let's get to the next part. Now in World 3-1, I was running around and Luigi showed up following Mario. I thought Luigi couldn't be in the same screen as Mario. He is the second player in this game. I decided to ignore him and beat the level. No thanks to Mr. Anxious Pants. Jesus. At first I get mad at Slender fans and Black Ops fans, and now Luigi. What did Luigi do to me? I grabbed the pole and Mario walked in the castle. After Mario left though, Luigi tried to follow, but the back of his neck was grabbed by Slender Man. I went to 3-2 and heard the damage noise, and after a few seconds, the usual death music, then the game over music. I was still playing though. That must have been Luigi dying. I got to 3-4 and got the third note. I saw Luigi looking at Mario from the right side of the room. The green parts of his sprite were missing. No, turned black. Then I got to 4-1, and after I got... Okay, we're just not going to acknowledge that. We're just going to say, oh yeah, here's Luigi, and his green is now black. He's entering a different kind of scene. It's not phase, Mom. Shut up. We'll just leave it at that. We're not even going to acknowledge that. Just go to the next level, alright? Luigi's being a little weird. Whatever, move on. And then I got to 4-1, and after I got halfway through the level, the black Luigi started chasing Mario. Was he excited to see his brother again? Well, I guess not, because when he touched Mario, the hero took damage. Whoa! I tried to outrun the crazy bastard. That's not me adding a joke. I legitimately wrote that. I tried to outrun the crazy bastard. That feels like something I'd add to, like, a script for the sake of a joke. This continued until level 4-4. I got in the room where Bowser was supposed to be, but he was missing. Then I grabbed the axe and Luigi ended up falling into the lava. Then the Slender Man showed up on the other side of the broken bridge, so I turned around, grabbed the fourth note before he could kill me. I was prepared for the worst when I got to level 5-1, but everything was normal, except I saw the Slender Man appearing and disappearing on and off the screen. Every time he showed up, all the minor enemies were killed off, and if I was looking at him, I'd take damage. Things only got stranger on level 5-2. The question marks on the blocks turned into X's and O's, or what people call the sign of Slender Man. Ah yes, the operator symbol. I could have just called it that. People know what that is, even back then. The blocks wouldn't give me anything except a mushroom every now and then, so there was no consequence, it was just a visual flare. In 5-3, there would be no enemies. I got the fifth note, but Bowser was still missing. In 6-1, the sky was gray again, and all the other changes were still there from World 5. The music, however, was different. Not slowed, not reversed, not even Lavender Town. Hey guys, if I acknowledge and say I'm not doing a cliche, that's just as good as subverting it, right? But except a whole new song. It sounded like a piano playing a slow... You know, it's very funny that, like, you say you're not doing all these cliches, but then you do a different one anyway. I didn't do these other cliches, but the creepy piano music, I absolutely did. It sounded like a piano playing a slow but spine-shivering song. Oh, I'm sorry, shivery song. But it was also very calming as well. Every time I beat a level after, there was a voice. A young teenage girl's voice saying, "He's here." She sounded like that emo bitch from school who went missing a few weeks ago. Austin never left her alone, and neither did I. Why? Because she was a goth, and people who don't dress like stereotypical douchebags, I mean normal people, deserve it. Real subtle there. Very subtle, like, commentary. Needless to say, at this point in time, I was still like a baby bat, as some people would call it. So I was the kind of person who was like kind of pretentious, being like, oh, everyone who's not me is a stereotypical douchebag. And don't get me wrong, there were stereotypical douchebags, but they weren't as common as I initially thought. It was just me being a judgmental prick and not realizing it. So I decided to vent about them in this story, I guess. Anyway, let's get back to the story. She was never social. Like she could make any friends. Her name was Montana. Who am I kidding? Even I hate who I am. Okay, that came out of nowhere. Okay, Jesus. I wanted to be like her. I was always interested in gothic interest, including creepypasta, because creepypasta is very synonymous with the gothic subculture. Like I said, baby bat, let's move on. But I'm afraid I will lose all my friends just because of it. Face it, in this world, no one can be themselves anymore. There's either guys who wear their pants down to their knees and call every other guy who doesn't dress like them an F-slur, or girls with fake tans and bleach blonde hair who think it's cool to be slutty. Jesus, I was real judgmental back then. I was a real fucking judgmental prick. That's me and Austin and 95% of America. Am I trying to write the Gothic subculture as like an oppressed group? Is that what I was trying to do here? I'm glad the story never took off, because oh my god. I'm sorry for everything atrocious here. I didn't realize it was this bad. I was like, here's the thing. There are people who are mistreated because of how they express themselves, but saying the Gothic subculture is like an oppressed group is like saying gamers are an oppressed group. That's dumb. Montana was a part of the 5% who actually were themselves. I don't like who I am, but I don't have a choice. By now, I beat World 6, and I'm starting 7-1. Slenderman wouldn't get away from me, so I ignored all the power-ups and just ran. Eventually, I got to level 8-1. So I just decided to skip any storytelling in World 7. World 7's a bitch anyway. The sky was now TV fuzz, and all the blocks were pitch black and the enemies were turned into X and an O. Well, at least they're back. When I jumped on them, I heard something other than that funny little cartoonish noise, but a piece of paper ripping. Slenderman was always to the left of the screen, so I just had to keep moving right. Even if I just tap left, I'd die. Level 8-2 came, and the same thing. I'm sorry, I can't. This is terrible grammar. I did not proofread this at all. I just slapped it together. Level 8-2 came, and the same thing, except the Black Luigi was standing with Slenderman in a single frame. No animation, and it didn't seem like it was moving because of Mario, but because of the screen's speed. The sprites phased through all the objects. 8-3. I saw the princess with Slenderman and Luigi also in a single frame, but the color was different. The dress was black and it looked like she was crying black tears, like she was wearing mascara. She looked exactly the same as Montana after we ruined her prom night. You know, as normal people do. You know, this character's an asshole. I'm not feeling very sympathetic towards him. This is like the cast of Until Dawn. They're all fucking assholes and pricks and I feel nothing. I feel no sympathy towards them. If anything happens to them, fuck them. Who cares? You ruined a girl's prom night, but then decided to do the whole, oh, always me, I can't express myself. You're an asshole. You're a judgmental prick. I did succeed in making an unlikable character. I didn't really do anything. Like, here's the thing. There's no problem with making an unlikable character, or like a character who does bad things, or a character who's just an asshole. But I feel like you do need to at least find some way to make them endearing. Like, maybe at least give them a reason as to why they act that way. You can't just write a character as an asshole and expect everyone to be like, oh, I love and support them. If it was like a comedy, like an Invader Zim kind of thing, I can understand, because at that point the humor is how terrible they are. And at that point you're not rooting for them, you're just watching for the entertainment. But if you're like telling a serious story, and you want people to be invested and care about that character, there's no problem with making them an asshole. You need to at least like give like the audience a reason to sympathize with them instead of just saying, well, they're a dick, and that's it. But apparently I didn't understand that. Anyway, she came alone as usual with 2 S's. So when we saw her, we got all... What the fuck? I can't read this. So when we saw her, we got all of over drinks. This was with 4 other people, and poured them on her. She ran out embarrassed in the same position as Peach is right now. You know, doing that iconic pose where Peach looks like she's going, ay! On her knees, looking down on the ground. I beat the level and it looked like the sprite was animated for a second when the usual he's here came. So it was Montana? I just don't know anymore. I feel like I'm losing my sanity. The final level, 8-4, finally came. It was just a gray hallway, but the gray brick wall over top of Mario had continuous dark red text on them. This is where I decided to frickin' monologue, I guess. I see a quote. Here we go! You did this to me. All I wanted was to be accepted. That's not the right word. Anyway, you did this to me. All I wanted was to be accepted for who I was. But I guess no one was allowed to do this. I'm not letting myself fall into the hands of society anymore. It's too late to turn back now. You stereotypical douchebag. Slendy understands me. Apparently in this situation, Slenderman and Montana have like a fucking thing going on. Take that for what you will. I don't know. I'm just guessing. Look, this story was made like over a decade ago. You can't expect me remember every single reason why I put like every single sentence. I just slapped this shit together anyway. As soon as the text ended, I was at the same bridge where Montana would be. But instead of Bowser, it was the Slender Man with the note behind him. so I tried to jump over him, but one of his tentacles touched Mario and he died. The game over screen came up, but I just shut down my computer. I got up from my chair and went into the forest for some... Why? Why? There was no reason. He decided, well, time to go sacrifice myself to Slender Man, and I guess that's exactly what's happening here. I understand now, Montana. I'm sorry. The real Slender Man was standing in front of me beside Montana, and a real-life version of the Black Luigi. Apparently, Luigi is now in the real world, and staring at me, shaming me for my actions. Montana walked up to me. Like I said, it's too late. Slender Man then killed me. How the fuck did I write this? How did I write this when I'm dead? Alright, so that was Super Mario Brothers 8 Pages Edition. Probably the worst thing I have ever made. Oh, but it's fucking hilarious too. It's good to look back on this just to remember where you came from. You need to be humble and, like, acknowledge your mistakes, no matter how embarrassing they can be or questionable in some others, right? Because you knew you grew from that. You're not that person anymore. And you can look as, like, a way to say, like, hey, I've improved as a creator. There are times sometimes when I'm working on, like, art, and I think, is my art getting worse? And then I look at the way my art used to be. Well, let's use an example of art made from this time period that this story was made. I can look at that and say, oh, yeah, I've absolutely improved. No question. I think it's good to be humble to acknowledge that, like, yeah, you made dumb stuff. But I think it's also good to look at it and be like, I've also gotten much better. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that awful story. The link to it will be in the description. Because I need everybody to see this awful thing for shits and giggles. Anyway, have a gay old time. I'm gonna drink more for funsies. Despite what we said earlier, it seems that the Starmites do in fact have one natural predator, the Moonmen. We call them that as the top of them looks similar to that of a human being, but from the waist down they form a crescent tail that curves forward. So they're literally Moonmen. Sure, it's not the most creative name. We're scientists, not fiction writers. Would you rather me call them something like Lunar Flya Sapien? Look, we know none of you refer to animals by their scientific name for a reason, and I don't even understand why we do that. But regardless, we decided that the 120-hour cycle that Starmites go by is a full Twist-Error day. During the last hour of a Twist-Error day, the Starmites are fully active, but why did they deplete so quickly? Easy. The Moonmen. The Moonmen have the unique ability of teleportation. They use it to quickly spawn into a cloud of Starmites and consume them by the handful. The Starmites only flee if the Moonman's body comes into contact with them, so they most likely are blind. As for whether or not they're completely conscious is beyond us. Besides that, the other species of Twist-Error seem to have a form of respect for the Moonmen. Most creatures do not attack them. Some don't even growl or show signs of aggression. They can sit on a Lessrest, hide under the shadow of a Shotlight, or even get close to a Neves without anchoring it. Perhaps they don't see them as a threat. Or maybe they realize that catching them would be impossible due to their teleportation skills. Or it could be that they see them as protectors. The Moonmen are not just curious, they're kind. They help other species escape dangerous situations by warping them to safety, and if a predator stands before them, then they will cease their hunt and move on to something else. They are the guardians of this world. If we could make contact with any species in Twist-Error, it would probably be them. But the pressure changes in the hole would probably kill them. That is until one scientist had an idea.
Connect 4, the game where you've got to think big to Connect 4 and win. Connect 4, the big game in town.
Video game creepypastas are silly, to say the least. They don't have a good reputation within the creepypasta community due to the cliches they've popularized and how many stories like Sonic.EXE have tainted the view of what it could be to the general public. If you ask someone outside of the community what they think of creepypasta, they would probably bring up these stories or the lost episodes. It's gotten to the point where some places online won't even accept stories that are based around video games for this reason alone. Which is a shame, because the idea of a horror story inspired by video games is a cool concept that could lead to a great tale. And to be fair, there are some good stories that prove exactly that. Pokemon Creepy Black, Herobrine, and Ben Drowned. It's just that for every Ben Drowned, there's also going to be 10 Sonic.EXEs.
I'll be drowning in hyper-realistic blood!
But one story that proves that good video game creepypastas exist is NES Godzilla, a story inspired by the game Godzilla, Monster of Monsters, released on a Nintendo Entertainment System in 1998. When it starts, you'll think that this is just another typical video game horror story. A man named Zack wants to relive his childhood, so he finds a copy of the game. After playing it for a bit, the game starts to act strange, being riddled with glitches, and when he finally faces the first monster, the game begins to show its true nature. But that's where the cliches come to an end, as he is forced to play the game against his will as it transforms into a former version of itself. While trying to survive, he is constantly followed by a kaiju called Red, a monster that towers Godzilla in height with spider legs, claws, and a hollowed human face. His design is gnarly, and honestly, I know some will scoff at the idea, but I would actually like to see Red become official. He's just got that cool of a design. There is also another monster that actually helps the player called Solomon. Solomon adds a bit of humor to the story, as he claims to be the best since 1973. There's also another new character called Face, who acts as the host of a quiz game that takes place after every level. No, he's not in the original game. He's also a humorous addition made for the story. Red, Solomon, Face, and other changes to the original game are what makes this story so good. It isn't just turning the game into a creepy version of itself, it's challenging what it was before, adding new elements not to make the game more creepy, but for the story. The creepypasta also adds new planets to the game, each representing the main character's struggle outside of it. I would argue that this is one of the best video game creepypastas out there. Too bad the ending sucks.
Gluppo! Get out here! Warn the innocents of the spoilers to come!
The main character is suffering the loss of his girlfriend, Melissa. In fact, many of the planets that Zack has to go through represent the unknown disorder she suffered with, leading to her death. This is fine and all. In fact, many aspects of Melissa enhance the story, as Red torments Zack more and more by slowly reminding him of her. Then the story ends with her being trapped in the game, then being some angelic being that gives Zack the strength to beat Red inside the game. I don't know, man. It just got too silly for my liking. But despite having a dumb ending, I would still call this one of the best video game creepypastas. Many have already talked about and analyzed the story, so I think it would be more fun to talk about the game that inspired such a fantastic story. So I got a copy of the game on eBay and went through it to talk about it today. Welcome to Cackling Pumpkins, and this is Godzilla, Monster of Monsters.
Planet X has declared war on Earth.
And before anyone says it, no, not the Planet X that many people said was going to crash into the Earth in 2003. Yeah, in the early 2000s, there was this end of the world hoax about this planet called Nibiru, or Planet X, that many people claimed was headed to Earth, even though such a planet doesn't even exist. It came back in 2012 along with every other end of the world theory possible, due to the Mayan calendar ending on December 21st, 2012, and that movie made in 2009 about it. God, that was a fucking trip. No, it wasn't. Then researching for this video, I learned that the theory actually came back again in 2017 because of some false prophet for the 20 billionth time that claimed that there was a numerical code hidden in the Bible. Look man, if a giant planet was going to crash into Earth, wouldn't we already see it with a regular ass telescope or even the naked eye long before it hit us?
No, because it's invisible. Yeah, that's it.
What? Anyway, Earth sends Godzilla and Mothra to face off Planet X and their forces. It's a simple story. It's just the bad guys wanting to destroy, take over, enslave the Earth as we send our hero to save it. It's an NES game, so plots were usually very basic, but they were rarely ever the main focus of these games anyway. Besides, it's a Godzilla game. Who cares about the human drama? We learned that mistake from Godzilla 2014. We just want to see giant monsters fight each other. That's all you really need. When you start the game, you'll be very confused. There's this board with hexagon spots with little icons and gray pieces representing the monsters. Think of this game like a mix between an action RPG and chess. You choose your piece, either Godzilla or Mothra, and move them across the map. Each spot is a side-scrolling level full of enemies. You must fight your way through the screen and destroy everything in your path. Both Godzilla and Mothra handle completely differently. Godzilla can move only 2 spaces on the board, while Mothra can move up to 4. Godzilla has a punch, kick, tail whip, and you can use his atomic breath with the start button for some reason. Yeah, a lot of NES games had questionable controls. There wasn't really a standard just yet. Sometimes start would pause, but in this case that uses your special move and pauses through select. In some games, B would be jump and A would be for attacks. Picking up items could be done by pressing literally any button on the NES controller they chose, including the D-pad. Godzilla is your go-to monster for fights, as he has better attacks, his atomic breath can completely destroy enemies, and he has a lot more options for fights. Mothra is better for side-scrolling levels, as she can fly, so that means she could go over most but not all hazards or enemies. She could also shoot lasers from her eyes and drop pieces of herself with start? She's much weaker than Godzilla, but she has a lot more movement options. That is until you get hit. After taking damage, Mothra will fall diagonally downwards to the left, and not even by a little bit either. She pretty much gets shoved into the corner, which can get really annoying because these side-scrolling levels love filling the screen with enemies. So sometimes you could be stuck in a corner because you were put in an unlucky position. In some cases, it can even lead to your death. But at least enemies don't do that much damage to you, and there are a lot of health pickups you can find. But that doesn't mean you won't get absolutely fucked when the game decides it. With Godzilla, he just gets knocked back a tiny bit, but not much. It can still be annoying, but it's not the worst. These levels have some of the strangest enemies for a Godzilla game. Yeah, the entire game has a strange vibe to it, but the enemies especially stick out. I don't know about you, but my favorite kaijus are grass, triangles, purple abominations, the invisible angry person who slams the door in Godzilla's face after an argument, and the heads that turn to look at you disappointingly when you hit them. Come on, man. Really? And the worst threat Godzilla has ever faced. Gigan? No. Mechagodzilla? No. King Ghidorah? No. Well, unless he does this. This is fun now, isn't it? But no. It's a flaming orange jelly bean of death and things. No, seriously, if this even touches Godzilla, he's basically dead on the spot. This red-hot chili pepper-looking motherfucker causes repeated damage just by touching the king of monsters. It's not even a little bit either. This thing can destroy your health bar in seconds. And when it's touching you, you can't even move or do anything about it until it's gone, or Godzilla is, whichever comes first. For Mothra, it isn't that bad as you can easily go around it, but if you get hit, then Mothra's additional knockback might actually save you. Though with Godzilla, you were fucked. This can be really annoying and borderline make the game unplayable, but don't worry, our favorite big titty werewolf is here to help, with another segment of Enter the Wolf Code, starring Velvet J. Blackwell. If you're having trouble with knockback in the game, there is one trick you could use to make things easier for you. Godzilla seems to have a super shield whenever he attacks. If you get hit by something that would normally cause knockback while he's already attacking, he would negate the knockback, but he would still take the damage. Despite his size, his punches and kicks are pretty fast, but I wouldn't rely on them to negate knockback because they end too quickly. Press down and B to use his tail whip instead. Not only does it have great range, but it's also much slower than his other attacks, and you can still move while using it. So whenever you see the evil jelly bean of pain and suffering, just time a tail whip and you'll go right through it. But this isn't a perfect method, as it still takes out a lot of health, though it's not as much to cause an instant game over, unless you are at a lower level, thus you have less health to work with. So here's another trick to help you out. This enemy is the one reason I would encourage people to use the game's level select code, as not only can you go straight to any planet in the game, but there's actually 4 passwords per planet, each being linked to a different level Godzilla and Mothra can start with, levels 4, 8, 12, and 16 respectively. So you can start the game at level 16, or if you feel like torturing yourself, you could go straight to Planet X at level 4. I'd say use the code to start on Earth at level 8. The code for that is E0UW6F9ND9S3F59. But because of this fucking thing, I'd actually recommend starting at level 12. The code for that is 55U-W-S-0-2-Y-6F9ND9S3BG9. So there you go. Now you know how to survive Godzilla's gluten allergy. Once that's over, it's the enemy's turn, and they'll move their own piece. If you reach an enemy monster piece, then you can face them only after beating a short side-scrolling level. But if an enemy reaches you, the fight starts instantly. But there's a catch. There is an invisible time limit to each fight. If you can't beat the enemy in time, then you'll be kicked out of the board and you have to go back and face them again. And be sure to do it right away, because with every passing turn you don't go back in and finish the fight, they'll recover some health. But don't worry, they don't regain that much health per turn. It's not as bad as the angry video game nerd made it out to be. After beating a monster, you can also level up, which increases your health and energy. The monster fights, I would say, are the best part of the game. They aren't perfect by all means, especially when Ghidorah spanks Mothra in the corner for 7 eternities.
Yeah, that's right. You dirty girl. You know I love how you're running the lamps at 3 in the morning. You naughty girl. That's right, inflate your abdomen and reveal your hairy tentacle-looking things like the Creatinodus Gangus moth. You know how I love it, baby.
At Earth, you encounter Ghidorah and Mothra, but in the following levels you'll face Varan, Hedorah, Baragon, Gigan, Mechagodzilla, and King Ghidorah. Some of these monsters Godzilla hasn't even faced yet in the movies, or has yet to still face them, like Varan for example. I do like how they made such an interesting pool of monsters to face. It's like when you see a crossover fighting game, and you get that one guy that no one knows about. It gives them a new chance to shine, and are usually far more interesting than the safe popular choices people can see a mile away. Once all of the monsters on the board are beaten, or if they retreat, then all you have to do is get to the enemy base, beat it, and proceed to the next planet. But wait, how do I proceed? There's no screen telling me I cleared the level, no paths opened up, what gives? Well, it's actually very simple. You just go to the final spot, beat the stage, and after that, press A and B at the same time, and then the game will ask if you want to proceed. Why? Oh, and just so you know, the combination of A and B is only used here. There is no other instance of needing to press both the face buttons to do anything in the game besides going to the next planet. Why would you do that? That's mean, I don't get it. That may already sound like a lot to some people, and to be fair, for an NES game, it is more complex than most. Maybe a little too complex. I mean, really, it's a Godzilla game on the NES. We just want to fight monsters. An idea like this could work for a modern release, though. Just make it a roguelite with procedurally generated levels, alternating bosses, shorten each board, and instead of leveling up, you could have upgrades and abilities you could grab similar to titles like The Binding of Isaac, or Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 with its campaign mode, which you all slept on, and yes, I am very disappointed in all of you for that. That would be cool, but for an NES game it's a bit much, especially with how they handle it. With each preceding planet, a new monster gets added, but the old ones stay, so each one gets longer, but also more tedious. Having to fight Ghidorah and Mothra 8 times gets a little annoying. For an NES game, this one isn't short, as it could take you around 3 to 4 hours to beat, but it's long for all the wrong reasons. The game isn't the worst, it's very tedious, annoying, and I would recommend using a cheat code to give yourself a better experience. But to me, that doesn't make the game worse. I mean really, try beating Contra without the Konami code. It's still very flawed with the board, repeating levels over and over, the knockback, filling the screen with nonsense, and random arbitrary choices, but still, I think I might play this game again at some point. It's actually pretty fun, and I can see why it made such an impact on the writer of NES Godzilla. Would I consider this one of my favorite NES games? Probably not. It's still far too flawed, but it's still a good time nonetheless. We had a meeting not too long ago. Our higher-ups, while impressed with our findings, are getting noticeably frustrated with the results. They seem to be more interested in finding things that could help us. They don't really seem to care about the creatures, though I have heard that they thought the Neves could have some military purposes, but that's assuming they could control it. The organization cannot go on forever, so we have to make some sort of breakthrough, and fast. One scientist suggested the idea of bringing a Moonman here to Earth. They're the most peaceful creatures, so we wouldn't have to worry about them attacking us. Their curious nature would probably allow us to study them. And it's possible that their teleportation abilities could allow them to survive the journey. But there's just one problem. How do we do it? Another scientist suggested the idea of turning on the lights of one of the drones and lure them down the hole as they think that the drone is a pack of Starmites. Well, it was worth a shot. So that's what we did. We waited until the last hour of a twist error day and brought the drone into the cloud of Starmites. But not too far in. It only took a few tries. But eventually, one of the Moonmen got curious enough to follow us. It didn't try to grab us, so it's clear that it was aware that we were not its food. It gave us a chance, and we were going to use it. We led it to the hole and drove the device in. It seemed hesitant at first, and possible that the beings of Twister always knew about the hole but never dared to enter it. Until now. The Moonman, seeing that the drone was fine, decided to follow. We kept moving, and the whole time, the Moonman floated behind us. It was almost a haunting sight. It was like the Grim Reaper himself was navigating the path to the afterlife. We made it to the halfway point, and it stopped at the boy's body. We almost forgot it was still there. I feel almost guilty that I didn't suggest that we removed it first, but science matters far more than one stupid kid's mistake. We learn from mistakes, not just from our own, but others as well. The Moonman stared at the boy's body. It was almost as if it was mourning the loss of the boy's life. It grabbed the remains and gently carried them as it continued to follow us. It made it to the top. We made sure to do this mission at night in case the sun's natural light was too much for it. We all stood around the hole, amazed by the haunting creature. Its complete white mass towered over us. I looked around as it gently put the boy's body on the ground, and for the first time, a creature of Twister was studying us. It approached me as I was in the center of its path. It stared me down, so I reached out a hand as it began to reach for mine. Before I could make any sort of contact, however, it began to screech. A loud, blood-curdling scream made all of us cover our ears in pain. It tried to reach its back, and when it turned around, I could see why. One of the other scientists tried to sedate it. He doesn't realize what he had just done. And neither did we. It teleported away, most likely back home for safety. We chewed out that scientist and forced him to leave. We immediately went back to the surveillance room where there was a panic. Some of the screens were covered in static. And then we saw it. The Moonman returned to its natural habitat, lying on the ground from the effects of the sedative, as other Moonmen and creatures of Twister surrounded it. And just then, one of the Moonmen quickly turned its head at the drone watching them. It warped towards it, as the footage went to static. It wasn't just the Moonmen either. Every creature we saw, and even others we didn't get to study, were hunting down the drones. When the final screen went to static, we all went silent. It would seem that this project was a complete failure. But it wasn't over yet. As one man asked where his colleague went, we looked around and noticed that a few of us were missing. Most of the men who were at the hole were gone, plus a few others. Another pointed behind me, but as I turned around there was nothing. But when I looked back at the pointer, he was gone too. I knew what was happening. We made the creatures of Twister aware of us, and from one simple action, we made them see us as the monsters. Just then, the feed of one of the drones turned back on for just a moment. My God. My friends. They were there in their world. Moonmen were abducting us. As I stared into the screen, the man squinted in pain, but no creature was touching him just yet. Every hole on his body began to bleed as he writhed in pain. His eyes bulged out of his head as his torso began to collapse in on itself. They can survive being in our world, but we can't survive being in theirs. But that didn't stop them. Before the feed ended, I saw the creatures begin to close in on the poor man. Everyone began to flee, but I stayed behind to make one last message to not just our higher-ups, but to as many people as possible. Because who's to say that they're going to stop at just a TRA? This could become a widespread invasion. And even if it doesn't, I still need to put out a warning to make sure that no one else makes the same mistake I did. I reached over the closest computer and started to type as fast as I could. Close the hole. Never go down there again. But before I could press send, in just a blink of an eye, I saw what the inside of a Lessrest stomach looks like. We studied monsters without realizing why they hide under our beds. Good evening. You just reached 96.9 The Fume. I'm Tony Rule. And I'm Track the Phone. And this rule has some new hits from bands like Back Alley Boys and Wink 103 for you to rock out to. But first, it's time to take some calls from our listeners. Here's one now. Good evening. You just reached 96.9 The Fume. You're currently speaking to Tony Rule. How can I help you this mad day?
You have to listen to me. We don't have much time.
You're right. We've got to get back to our sweet jam soon.
No, listen to me. We've made a terrible mistake, and now we're paying for it. I work for an organization called
You okay, man? You seem to be breaking up a bit.
They're trying to censor me. Listen, don't go outside. They know we were watching them in their territory, and now they're coming to ours to...
Hey, listen, that's great, man, but we've got to get back to our sweet new jams. Hey, tell you what, call those people on 98.5 The Freak. They'll surely help you out.
No, stop!
Are you sure that was such a good idea? Oh, listen, Track. We get loons all the time here. It's nothing to worry about. How about instead of worrying, we... great. Another piece of equipment broke. I swear this place is falling apart. Be right back. Wait, you forgot to turn on the jams, you melonhead! Don't call me a melonhead, you can't... Track, all the race! Gone out!